Hey guys, it's Maymay and we're back for part 2 of our recipe book, our composition book turned into a recipe book. And if you didn't see part 1, I'll link it below so you'll want to go catch that first before you start here so you'll know where we're at. And today we're going to work on creating some dividers inside so we can have sections and probably some more pockets and things like that. Now this book, once we add dividers and things, it will kind of puff up a little bit. And if you don't like that, this is a lot of paper. You can always go in and remove some paper. I'm not going to do that because I don't mind if it kind of gets chubby. I'm okay with that. The first thing that I'm going to do today is decide how many tabs I want. And I know I want to do appetizers, main dishes, side dishes, and desserts. That's really the only thing I wanted to have because I think that covers everything I need. But the cool thing is you can do whatever you want for your tabs. If you make, you know, if you have, you want to do it in potluck or crock pot, or if you want to do anything like that, you could do that. That would be super cool. Now imagine if you were given this for a gift. Now this is my thought. And you did all the dividers, and maybe you had a divider for Mom and for, say, Aunt Judy and Aunt Ann and Meemaw or whatever, and then in those dividers you put recipes from them, and then you gave this as a gift to a family member or a friend. How neat would that be? That they could just go to this tab and see that person's recipes. I think that would be a super cool gift. So anyway, just an idea. Let's get started making dividers. So I know this first page is going to have a divider. One thing I'm going to do to try to keep the bulk down is I'm going to avoid this area altogether. Anywhere from this margin line back. I know this may seem a little weird and it may not look perfect, but I think this will help me keep my bulk down. In the last, or actually the only other composition book I ever did, I didn't do that, and I feel like I would have been better to not go past that margin. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So I don't have any paper clips, but if you did, you could just use paper clips for this part. But I do have these clips from my Clip It All or my Clip It Up, so I'm going to use these to help me do this. I'm going to separate this into 4 sections, and I'm also not going to worry about being perfect with my sections. I'm just going to try to get them pretty close. Now if you have something that you have more recipes for than others, and you want to maybe add pages to your main dishes and have less pages for your side dishes, you can do that too. Alright, let's see how this is feeling. He feels a little bit thin. Okay, I'm good with that. So now I'm just going to clip these together because I know these will be my sections. Alright, so I'm going to make my first. I'm going to cover this page first, and so I think I'll just release. I don't even need that clip for the first section. And we'll start with this page. In an effort to save my designer paper, I'm going to use some of this vanilla cream from Coordinations, which has a canvas texture. This is 65-pound cardstock, and I'm going to use this as my main sheets of paper, so I can just put inserts of my designer paper so I can stretch my paper to go further. So of this sheet, I'm going to need 8 pieces because I want to sandwich 1 piece of paper in it. Okay, and that'll be my divider. So I'll do 8 pieces measured from the margin out and from the bottom to the top. Now with my dividers, I've cut them to fit. I want to show you. It's going to be from the margin line out, okay, and then I'm going to round the corners with the quarter inch rounder on 2 sides. And what that'll do is help it to match up to the bend of the round of the paper there at the corners, okay? But I want to show you one more thing. If you have an envelope punch board and you want to kind of do 2 steps in one, let me show you a little trick. This is in case you don't have an envelope punch board, and then what I'm going to show you next is in case you do. So if you have an envelope punch board, on your paper that you just cut to be your divider, cut it a ½ inch wider than you need it, okay? So your height will be the same, but your width you'll cut 1/2 inch wider than you need. Then you can come into your envelope punch board and center that punch on one end, okay? And decide how long you'd like a tab to be so you can write on it. And I think I'm going to do 2 inches on this tab. So I'll put this at 2 inches, maybe a little more, 2 1/4. Okay, and then you take your paper trimmer and you line this guy up in it, okay, to where you're right past your little file tab, and you're going to cut that away. Just stop where it stops. And that gives you an instant tab or file tab for your book. So then, instead of doing it like I'm doing it, you would just take this guy and insert it, and you already have a tab, okay? And you can put it all the way to the edge. You can do whatever you need to as far as getting it lined up, but you'll automatically have a tab that will stick outside your book for where you write your recipes and things. Now, I'm not going to do it that way. The reason is, not everybody has an envelope punch board, but if you did, this would be super easy to do, and it would make things go really quick. Okay, back to my way, so in case you don't have an envelope punch board, we're just going to make some tabs for ours. We'll do that in a few minutes. First, I'm going to adhere these pieces down. So I'm going to start with this first one. Now, I'm going to use ATG here because I'm sticking this to notebook paper, and just about anything sticks to notebook paper. I'm not going to worry too much about this coming loose. That notebook paper is very fibrous, and so it will catch, and if anything tried to come off, it would have to take that notebook paper with it. And I am using my 1/2 inch, my wider adhesive. I'm just going to line this up with my corner here in the bottom. So there, I covered the first side. Now I'm just going to flip this one single page and do the same thing on this side. So we've just sandwiched that one piece of paper in there and created a divider. And by leaving this blank, it gives us no extra bulk. I'll show you what I mean. Now there's nothing that's going to make this pop up anymore because of where our bulk is starting. I'm going to go through, and everywhere I have a divider in place, everywhere I've decided for a section, I'm going to do just what I did, and we'll come back and look at that together. Okay, so we're laying pretty flat still, and now we have 4 sections divided out for us. Isn't that awesome? And now we can decorate these pages. Before I go any further, I want to go ahead and put down my tabs, or at least the base of my tab, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to make those. I'm going to use 2 punches. I'm going to use a 2-inch scallop circle punch, okay? And then I'm going to use a 1 3/4 inch circle punch. But I'm going to start with this guy. And I want my tabs to be kind of obvious and bold so I can get to what I want quickly. So I have this scrap of brown paper. It's not really scrap, it's just a piece left over from another project. And I'm going to cut 8 scallop circles out of this scrap paper, or this piece of paper. So I have my circles cut out, and this is where I'm going to use my wet glue. And the reason is it's going to give me a little more time to play. Now I'm only doing 4 sections in my book. So I'm going to start with the top section, and because I'm using a scallop circle, I can usually find a scallop across from each other and line them up and know that that is the back that's going to go down. So I'm going to put some wet glue here. The other cool thing is I can get this really covered. I'm just going to put it on half for now, okay? Then I'm going to lift this divider up, making sure I don't have any of the paper in there, just the divider, just the section we made. And then lining this up with 2 of those scallops. I'm going to put this one at the very top, okay? Now you can make yours stick out as much as you want, and as you do this, you might decide, like I just did, to slide it down some so it's not sticking out quite so far. So I just slid that in, and that's where that tab is going to go, okay? Now I know I can put my other one on top of it and go ahead and seal this shut. So we're kind of just sandwiching these on top of each other. And we're just going to line them up with the scallop edge. That's why I like using the wet, because you have more time to kind of move it around and get the line up right. But this makes a quick and cute little tab to stick out. And then we'll go back and decorate with that other punch in a second. So I started with the top one. Now I'm going to move to the bottom, and I'm going to put it at the furthest point at the bottom that I can, just like we did the top one. So put some glue on it. And I know in the camera it looks like I'm using a lot of glue, but I promise I'm really scratching that around. It's just because it's white. Every time I do that I think, wow, that's a lot of glue, but it's not as much as it looks like. Then I'm just going to line this up like I did the top one. I'm going to look at that and make sure I have the same amount of scallops out. Yep. Okay. And then we'll put the other one on. Okay, so now when I close this, you see I have one at the top, one at the bottom, and these I'm going to split the difference here. So I'm just going to look at how that needs to go, and it'll be like that. And you can kind of do this based on, you know, if you have more tabs than I do, you'll have to do a little more work, not too much more. So I'm just going to dry fit this for a second and shut that back down and see how that looks, and I like where that one is. I'm just going to leave it there and put the glue on it. Then I'll just bring that divider down to it. Put the other one on top. Okay, so that gets us 1, 2, 3, and now we need to do this one. So let's go to that section, which is here, and we're going to dry fit it again. I just think that's the easiest way to do it. Just kind of put it in place. Like so, and put it up a little bit. That's pretty close. They're not perfect. Not stressing about that. And I'm just going to close that divider and fit that in place and add the top one. So see, that makes that part pretty easy, and that's the hardest part about the tabs, is putting that piece on and getting them kind of where they need to go. The rest is super easy. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and do the circles for on top of here, and I'll show you why I'm going to go ahead and do them on top in just a minute. But I need to make 4 of these. I don't need 8 because I'm not going to write on both sides. If you want to write on both sides, go ahead and make 8, but I'm just going to do 4. Now the other thing, with these being brown, I wasn't worried about distressing them, but I am going to go ahead and distress these guys. Now I'm also going through and just distressing those dividers. So I just went through and did every one of these, just so that they match everything else. Now I'm just going to take these guys and put some liquid glue on them. And I'm just going to center them in that scallop. I just think that makes it look very kitchen-y. Gives the feel of a home kitchen to me. So now when we close our book, we have these pretty little tabs that stick out, and we can go back and put, oh, I bent a page. We can go back and put whatever section that is later. Okay, so now what I want to do is decorate these guys. And I'm going to do it by covering them with pages of color, or either just making pockets. You can decide which way you want to do it. I kind of like the idea of having some of the color, like a pop of color on each one of these pages, so that's what I'm going to do. Because I have covered this, this allows me to change the size of the piece I put here. And because I want to make my paper go as far as I can make it go, I'm going to do a 6-inch wide piece, okay? And the height won't matter, but by making a 6-inch wide piece that'll have a border all the way around it, I'll be able to get 2 pieces of this paper out of a 12 by 12, so I can stretch my paper that way. So they're going to be 6 inches wide by 9 1/4 tall. That's what I'm going to do on those. So I'm going to go ahead and cut. I'm not going to do 8 pieces, and I'll tell you why. When we get to this, I'll tell you why, but I'm going to go ahead and do 4 pieces for the tops of these. So I have my pages cut, and in an effort to save paper, what I did was I would cut a piece and then flip it to give me 2, and then cut a piece and flip it to give me 2. So I really only used 2 pieces of paper to get these. So now I just got to decide which ones I want. This wording goes in lots of different directions, but isn't that cute right there? I like this one. I really think I want this polka dot on this page though. Yep, I'm going to put the polka dot on this page, and I'm just going to keep going with my 1/2-inch ATG tape because this is inside and it's not going to be getting a lot of wear and tear as far as, you know, catching on things and stuff like that. So now I have some pretty paper there, and I didn't have to waste all my paper to fill that spot because I just don't want to use that much paper. Now I'm going to put this one here. So now let's flip through and look at those. There's 1, there's 2, 3, and 4. And I love how that's looking. Okay, now we're going to do some pockets. The reason I want to do some pockets is this. I have been where maybe I'm looking at a magazine, or I found a little recipe somewhere, maybe a card or something, and I like handwritten recipes. That's why I'm doing a book like this, so I can handwrite in my recipes. But sometimes I get a recipe I don't have time to transfer into my book. So if I have a pocket on each one of these, and I have an appetizer, say, recipe, I can stick it in that pocket and put it into the book as I have time. So I'm going to put a pocket on each one of these little dividers. And we're going to use those recipe cards because they're perfect. And I have 4 left, so they're perfect. So if you've seen part 1 of my video, you know what we're doing here because we're making these pockets, okay? And the way we do that is we cut out the little recipe cards, and then I have these 1-inch strips of paper that I scored in half, okay? And then I put adhesive on both sides. We're going to start with the 6-inch side, the longest side, or the bottom, and make sure you have your card right. Y'all see how I'm double checking now? I'm going to learn my lesson one day. Stick that one on the bottom, and then put your side pieces on. Like I said, if you saw my first video, I went over this in much more detail and much slower. Now this piece does overlap, and that's what you want it to do. Okay, put this last piece in place. And they overlap. Now I'm not going to peel the adhesive off yet because I'm going to go ahead and ink this. If you weren't using a black piece to be your flaps, then you could ink your flap at the same time and kind of do 2 things at once. But since mine's black, it's not going to matter. But this will just save you a tiny bit of time if you do have to ink them both. Alright, now I'm going to build 3 more of these, just like this, and we're going to put them in the book. Okay, so I've built 3 more, okay, and I have inked them already. Now I just need to decide which ones I want to put on which divider. Now I know this one is my appetizers, and this has a pie on it, so I don't want to put that one there. I think this pink would be really cute right here. I think this would look good here. And then this guy here, because I like the difference in color. And since that one has a pie, I think it has to go here for desserts. So that's how we're going to do it. Alright, so what you're going to do to put these down is first, you're going to peel away the shorter sections of the adhesive backer. Okay. Then what I like to do is just use a little tool and hold that down, and then seal the bottom to it on both sides. That way you have a closed pocket. And I talked about that in that first video, so some of you may be seeing it for the first time, but if you want to see it in detail, just go to part 1 of this series. Alright, and then this little guy is going to line up exactly with our paper. And the reason I like these flaps again is because now I have some give to that pocket and plenty of room. So I'm going to do the same thing all the way on these tabs. Alright, you ready for the walkthrough? I think this paper is so pretty. So now we have 2 pockets on the front. Okay. We go to the next tab, we have another pocket. The next tab is a pocket. And the next tab we have a pocket. I love this paper. So I did find a link for this paper. One of my subscribers told me she found it on Amazon, and I never even thought about Amazon. So I went and looked and got the link, and it will be below this video. So if you want to get this paper so you can make one just like this, you'll be able to do that through that link. Now, we're going to stop here because we're really at a good point, okay? We've got our dividers in, we've got our tabs in, and now it's just really time to decorate because as it stands, it's a great little recipe book, okay? So quick walkthrough real quick. We have done our front cover, our inside cover with a pocket. We've done tabs, we've done dividers, we have pockets. So we've done all 4 of those. And then on the back, if you remember, we also have a pocket. We've covered that as well as the very back. So that was a quick little walkthrough, and tomorrow we'll start on our cover decoration, finishing our tabs, and I'll tell you what we're going to use this for. All right, guys, have a great one. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.